Unfortunately, the captain streak of 9 captain picks in a row is over, but the record still stands strong and we're going to bounce back. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any future captain picks. First up on the shortlist this game week is Parma against Burnley at home. That's a decent fixture. Son also has a decent fixture against Luton at home. Salah's fixture against Brighton at home's not quite as easy, but he is a different animal at Anfield, and he has got more promising underlying stats so far this season. While Son's underlying stats have been nowhere near as good as Salah's, he has nearly matched his output, and whilst the expected numbers are typically better at projecting the future return points than the actual return points themselves, Son is an elite finisher, and he could actually keep up this overperformance. But then on the flip side, Salah's not a bad finisher himself, and his numbers are more sustainable. As for Parma, his output has been nowhere near the other two players on the shortlist, and his underlying stats are slightly worse than Son's, but at least he is the set-piece specialist at Chelsea, he's a main man on direct free kicks, he does take in direct free kicks and corners as well, and of course he is on penalty duties. The other two players on the shortlist are on penalty duties as well, but Salah only takes the occasional direct free kick, he doesn't take any indirect free kicks or corners, and Son doesn't take any free kicks or corners at all. However, the Korean does have the highest anytime goal scorer odds this game week, he's the only player who is actually likely to score, Salah's at a coin toss, and Parma's even worse off. The anytime assist odds are in the exact same order, where Son takes the lead, Salah's in second place, and Parma's in third place. Therefore, Son's got the highest chance of succeeding, and he's only got a 28% chance of blanking. Those odds are from FPL Review, so it's no surprise that their points projections are tipping Son as the best captain this game week. However, on Fantasy Football Fakes, they've got Salah as the best captain by quite a margin. So whilst Son has the highest figure, Salah's got the more consistent figures and the highest average projection. By comparing the opposition's defence, it's clear to see that Son's got the easiest fixture this game week against Luton. Parma's fixture is decent against Burnley, they have conceded slightly more goals than Luton, but their expected goals conceded figure is much lower, and in fact, no team in the whole league has a higher expected goals conceded figure than Luton. They've got a 97% chance of conceding at least one goal against Spurs away, and out of all the attacking players at Spurs, Son is the most likely to contribute towards a goal, whether it's actually scoring the goal or assisting it. At the same time, that also applies to Parma and Salah. They are the talismanic figures in their attacks as well. Salah does have it more difficult this game week. Brighton have got the 4th best expected goals conceded figure in the whole league, but it is important to remember the stats at the start of the video where Salah's provided more than the other two players this season, and his underlying stats are much more promising as well. Before we make a decision, we're going to carry out a quick risk assessment. All 3 players on the shortlist have had a couple of weeks worth of rest during the international break. None of them featured for their international teams. It's promising for Parma that he featured for 90 minutes against Leicester in the Cup, but to be fair, I do think he is more likely to get dragged off earlier. For example, a couple of game weeks ago, he only made it to the 70th minute mark, then he got subbed off, and I think that's why his expected minutes are slightly lower, but they're still decent. While Son was subbed off a few minutes before 90 in his last match, he does typically play 90 minutes more than Parma, and that's why his expected minutes are slightly higher. The same applies to Salah's expected minutes as well. Whilst he was subbed off 30 minutes earlier in his last match, you've got to remember that he was returning from injury. One player that I am going to rule out of captaincy this game week is Parma. I don't think he's quite competed with the other 2 players on the shortlist. I'm not saying he's a bad captain, I just don't think he's the best. I think it's really close between the other 2 players, so if you skip to this point in the video, make sure you go back and watch the data analysis because you might conclude with a different player to me. I'm going to captain the most clinical player with the highest anytime goal scorer odds, highest anytime assist odds, highest FPL review points projection, his opponents have the worst defensive numbers, and they've got the lowest clean sheet odds, and his expected minutes are reliable. I'm tipping Son against Luton as the best captain this game week. If you found this video informative, make sure you let the YouTube algorithm know by hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss any future captain picks.